What if the reason you feel invisible is because you're trying too hard to be seen? What if the reason they pull away is because you're leaning in? And what if, just maybe, the more you chase love, success, approval, attention, the more it quietly runs from you? We've been taught that effort equals reward, that desire must be loud, that if you want something badly enough, you should go after it with everything you have. Chase the dream, chase the person, chase the opportunity. But here's the uncomfortable question. Why does it so often feel like the harder you chase, the further it moves away? Think about it. You want someone to like you, so you overthink every word. You want the job, so you rehearse every sentence until your voice trembles. You want success, so you push and push and push until you're exhausted. And somehow, the magic disappears, the chemistry fades, the opportunity goes silent, the momentum collapses. It's frustrating, right? Like, seriously frustrating. Because you're not lazy, you're not careless, you care too much. But what if the problem isn't your effort? What if it's your energy? Not in a mystical way, not in a just manifest it way, but in a deeply psychological way. When you chase something, you send a subtle signal to yourself and to others that you don't have it, that you lack it. And the human brain is incredibly sensitive to lack. We can feel it in a room. We can sense it in a conversation. We can hear it in someone's tone. It's not about what you say. It's about the pressure underneath what you say. Come on, you've felt this before. You've met someone who seemed calm, grounded, unbothered. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They weren't proving anything. And yet, everyone leaned toward them. Why? Why does the person who doesn't chase attention receive it? Why does the one who seems least desperate for love often attract it most? Why does the quiet confidence of someone who could walk away feel magnetic? Here's the counterintuitive truth. When your energy no longer says, I need you, it begins to say, I am enough. And that shift changes everything. Because need creates tension, and tension pushes. Presence creates space, and space pulls. But we're afraid of that space, aren't we? If we stop chasing, what if nothing comes? If we relax, what if we lose our chance? If we detach, what if we end up alone? So we grip tighter. We text again. We explain more. We try harder, not because we're weak, but because we're scared. And that fear is deeply human. Today, we're going to explore something radical. What if the most powerful move you can make is to stop running? What if attraction isn't about effort, but about regulation? What if the moment you stop chasing the world is the exact moment the world begins to notice you? Stay with me.
Because this might change the way you move through relationships, through ambition, through life itself.
And by the end of this, you might realize something unexpected. You were never meant to chase. You were meant to become still. Imagine this. It's 11:47 p.m. You told yourself you wouldn't check your phone again, but here you are, scrolling back to that message, rereading their last reply, analyzing the punctuation like it holds the secrets of the universe. Was that period cold? Was that haha shorter than usual? Come on. You know this spiral. Your chest feels tight, your stomach slightly heavy, your mind running simulations like a machine that refuses to power down. Maybe they're losing interest. Maybe you said too much. Maybe you didn't say enough. And the worst part? Nothing has actually happened. No rejection, no argument, no clear problem. Just silence. But silence, to a chasing mind, feels like danger. Minimalist art, a small figure in a vast empty space. Now imagine another scenario. You're waiting for feedback after a job interview. You replay every answer you gave. That one awkward pause. That one sentence you wish you could take back. You tell yourself you're just being prepared. But if you're honest, you're trying to regain control. You're chasing certainty because uncertainty feels unbearable. And this isn't just about relationships or careers. It shows up everywhere. You post something online, then check the likes. You finish a project, then wonder if it's good enough. You walk into a room, then scan faces to see how you're being received. Your body becomes a radar, scanning, measuring, adjusting. It's exhausting. Here's what most people don't realize. When you chase, your nervous system shifts into subtle survival mode, not dramatic panic, not full breakdown, just a quiet, constant hum of alertness. Your heart beats slightly faster, your breathing becomes shallower, your thoughts narrow. Your brain's stress system, the HPA axis, activates. Think of it like an internal smoke alarm. It's designed to protect you when something essential feels threatened. And to your brain, connection is essential. Belonging is survival. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from your tribe meant death. So your brain evolved to treat social uncertainty like physical danger. Man, that's intense when you really think about it. When someone doesn't text back, your ancient brain whispers, are we being rejected? Are we losing status? Are we at risk? And so you chase. You send another message. You over-explain. You try to fix what might not even be broken because your system believes, if I don't act, I'll lose something important. But here's the painful irony. The more you chase from fear, the more that fear leaks into your behavior. You become slightly more intense, slightly less relaxed, slightly less yourself, and people feel it, not consciously, but emotionally. Have you ever noticed how you're most attractive when you're not trying to be? When you're laughing naturally? When you're focused on something you love? When you're not calculating every word? That version of you feels open. But when you chase, you shrink. You edit yourself mid-sentence. You watch their reactions too closely. You abandon your rhythm to match theirs. And slowly, without realizing it, you trade authenticity for approval. That's the real struggle. It's not just about wanting something. It's about feeling like you need it to feel okay. And when your sense of okayness depends on an outcome, your energy tightens. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you cup it gently, it stays. If you squeeze it, it slips through your fingers. Chasing is squeezing. And the fear underneath it is this: if I relax, I'll lose. So you don't relax. You monitor. You manage. You overextend. You give more than is reciprocated. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay available just in case. Just imagine this. What if they only value you when you're less available? What if the more you orbit around them, the less gravity you seem to have? It feels unfair because you're not playing games. You're just trying to show you care. But caring from anxiety feels very different than caring from wholeness. One says, I enjoy you. The other says, I can't lose you. And that subtle difference changes everything. Here's the deeper truth. Chasing often comes from a hidden belief. I am not enough unless I am chosen. Sit with that for a second. Not enough unless I am chosen. Chosen by a partner, chosen by an employer, chosen by an audience. So you run, you perform, you optimize, you anticipate, because being chosen feels like safety. But what if the constant running is what's draining your magnetism? What if your nervous system is so busy trying to secure love that it never experiences it? This is the internal war. You want connection, you want success, you want meaning, but the more you grip, the more distant it feels. And the scariest part, if you stop chasing, you don't know who you are without the pursuit, because chasing has become your identity. The fixer, the achiever, the one who tries harder than everyone else. So slowing down feels dangerous, stillness feels exposed, and letting go feels like giving up. But maybe, just maybe, it's not giving up. Maybe it's the first step toward becoming someone who no longer needs to run to be worthy. And that's where everything begins to shift. I've often wondered why detachment feels so powerful. Why does someone suddenly become magnetic the moment they stop trying so hard? Why does the person who can walk away often hold the most influence? It seems almost unfair. You care deeply, you invest time, you show effort, and yet the one who appears calm, steady, unattached, somehow draws everything in. To understand this, we have to look inward, not at strategy, not at manipulation, but at the nervous system. Your body is always communicating, even when you're silent, through micro-expressions, through posture, through tone, and beneath all of that, through regulation. When you chase something from anxiety, your HPA axis activates, the stress response system we mentioned earlier. Think of it like your internal emergency generator. It releases cortisol, sharpens attention, prepares you to act. In a life or death situation, this is brilliant. But in modern life, it makes you intense. And intensity driven by fear feels different than intensity driven by passion. Your body tightens, your breathing becomes shallow, your voice slightly higher. You may not notice it, but others do, because humans are wired to read subtle threat signals. Thousands of years ago, sensing someone's emotional instability could mean survival. So we evolved to detect it instantly. Now here's where it gets interesting. When your nervous system is calm, your vagus nerve, which helps regulate safety and connection, becomes active. Think of the vagus nerve
there
like
you
a social
are, my
switch.
darling.
When it's online, your
It is
eyes
so
soften,
good to
your
see
voice
your
slows,
face.
your gestures become natural. You're
Yeah,
present,
I know
and
exactly
presence
what you
feels
mean.
safe.
It's nice to
Safety
just
feels attractive,
relax
not
and
because it's flashy,
be
but because
ourselves
it's
for a little
grounding.
while.
I want you to notice something. When you're not chasing, you're not scanning. When you're not scanning, you're not seeking approval. When you're not seeking approval, you're simply being. And being has weight. This is where Carl Jung's ideas become deeply relevant. Jung believed that what we chase obsessively in the outer world often reflects something we haven't integrated within. He called this the shadow, not the dark villain inside you, but the unacknowledged parts. If you desperately chase validation, there may be a part of you that doubts your worth. If you chase status, there may be a part of you that feels invisible. If you chase love relentlessly, there may be a part of you that fears abandonment. And here's the twist. The more you chase externally, the less you sit with the internal wound. So the chase becomes a distraction, a coping strategy. You tell yourself you're ambitious, or romantic, or just really driven. But underneath, you're trying to quiet a fear. And the mind is clever. It convinces you that once you secure the thing, the person, the job, the recognition, you'll finally relax. But that relief rarely lasts because the root wasn't external, it was internal. Let's talk about neuroplasticity for a moment. It sounds complex, but it's simple. Your brain reshapes itself based on repeated emotional patterns. If you repeatedly operate from scarcity, worrying about losing people, missing opportunities, not being enough, your brain becomes efficient at detecting scarcity. It builds neural highways around it, so even neutral situations feel threatening. Silence feels like rejection. Delay feels like disinterest. Criticism feels catastrophic. Man, that's exhausting. And here's the dangerous loop. The more you chase from fear, the more your brain strengthens the belief that you are incomplete without the outcome. That creates something called cognitive dissonance, which is just a fancy way of saying your actions don't match your identity. You might tell yourself, I'm confident, but your behavior whispers, please don't leave. That internal mismatch creates tension, and tension leaks. People feel it. Now here's the part most people don't expect. Detachment is not about suppressing desire. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring without collapsing. That's a different energy entirely. Think about the ocean. It moves constantly. It's powerful. It has depth. But it doesn't chase the shore. It simply exists in its fullness. And the tide comes and goes naturally. When your energy shifts from, I need this, to I would enjoy this, your entire physiology changes. Your breathing deepens. Your mind widens. You stop trying to control every outcome. And paradoxically, this makes you more influential, because influence doesn't come from force. It comes from stability. Here's the evolutionary layer. In tribal environments, the individual who remained emotionally regulated during uncertainty signaled leadership. If food was scarce or danger nearby, panic spread quickly. But calm stabilized the group. So we evolved to move toward those who seem internally secure, not perfect, secure. When you're no longer chasing, you're signaling, I will be okay regardless. And that is rare. And rarity attracts attention. But let's acknowledge the dark side. Some people interpret detachment as withdrawal. They shut down. They become distant. They pretend they don't need anyone. That's not secure detachment. That's avoidance. Avoidance is fear disguised as independence. True detachment feels warm, open, grounded. It says, I choose you, but I do not depend on you to survive emotionally. That difference is subtle, but powerful. So maybe the real shift isn't about stopping effort. It's about stopping desperation. It's about healing the part of you that believes you must chase to be worthy. Because when that part softens, you don't grip. You don't overextend. You don't abandon yourself to be chosen. You simply show up, whole. And when you show up whole, you don't repel. You resonate. And resonance is far stronger than pursuit. That's the psychology behind why, when your energy no longer chases, everything begins to lean toward you. Let me offer you a perspective you probably haven't considered. What if your tendency to chase was never a weakness? What if it was once an advantage? Because here's the truth. The part of you that overthinks, that cares deeply, that scans for shifts in tone, that wants reassurance, that part evolved to protect you. Thousands of years ago, survival depended on belonging. If you sensed even a slight shift in your tribe's behavior toward you, it mattered. Rejection wasn't just emotional pain, it was physical danger. So your nervous system became exquisitely sensitive. You learned to read micro-expressions, to anticipate moods, to adjust your behavior quickly. In that environment, you would have been valuable, hyper-aware, attuned, adaptive. Come on, that's not weakness. That's intelligence shaped by survival. But here's the problem. The world changed. The brain didn't. You no longer live in a small tribe where one person's mood determines your survival. But your nervous system still reacts as if you do. So when someone delays a reply, your ancient wiring whispers, danger. When a boss seems distant, your body braces. When someone pulls back emotionally, your mind starts running scenarios. Not because you're dramatic, because you're wired for connection. And connection once equaled life. This is the twist. You are not broken for chasing. You are evolved. But evolution in the wrong environment becomes anxiety. Now let's go deeper. There's something powerful that happens the moment you stop chasing. You confront stillness. And stillness reveals something uncomfortable. Without the chase, who are you? For many people, pursuit becomes identity. The achiever, the fixer, the romantic, the hustler. Movement feels productive. Chasing feels purposeful. But stillness? Stillness feels exposed. Because in stillness, you meet yourself. No performance, no proving, no persuading. Just you. And sometimes that's the scariest place to stand. I've noticed this in myself too. There's a strange comfort in striving. If I'm striving, I don't have to sit with uncertainty. If I'm chasing, I feel in control. But control is often an illusion, because chasing is usually a reaction to fear. Fear of being unseen, fear of being ordinary, fear of being left behind. And here's the shift that changes everything. What if the reason things feel hard to attract is not because you lack effort, but because your energy is communicating scarcity? Scarcity has a tone. It sounds like, please pick me. Please respond. Please don't forget me. Even if you never say those words, your body says them, your timing says them, your urgency says them. And humans are incredibly sensitive to pressure. Pressure feels like responsibility. Responsibility feels heavy, so people pull back. Not because you're unworthy, but because your nervous system is asking them to regulate your emotions for you. That's the part nobody talks about. When you chase, you unconsciously place emotional weight on others. Make me feel safe. Confirm my value. Reduce my uncertainty. And that's too much for anyone to carry long term. Now here's the empowering part. The moment you regulate yourself, you remove that weight. You become emotionally self-sustaining. And that changes the dynamic instantly. When your nervous system feels safe internally, your behavior shifts subtly. You wait without spiraling. You speak without over-explaining. You express interest without clinging. You stop trying to control outcomes. And this creates space. Space is powerful because space invites curiosity. When you're not constantly reaching, others have room to step toward you. This isn't manipulation, it's physics. Push something constantly and it resists. Create space and it moves naturally. Now let's address the darker layer. Some people misinterpret this concept and swing to the extreme. They say, fine, I won't chase anyone. But what they really mean is, I won't care. They shut down desire to avoid vulnerability. They numb attachment to avoid disappointment. That's not power. That's fear wearing a mask of independence. True detachment doesn't remove desire. It removes desperation. You can deeply want something and still be okay without it. That's emotional maturity. And it's rare. Think about the most grounded person you know. They care. They love. They work hard. But they don't beg. They don't panic when things shift. They don't lose themselves to secure attention. There's a steadiness to them, and steadiness feels magnetic because it feels safe. Remember what we talked about earlier. Humans evolved to move towards stability. The calm nervous system in a chaotic world becomes an anchor. When you stop chasing, you're not withdrawing, you're anchoring. And anchors attract, because everyone is tired of instability. Everyone is tired of emotional turbulence. When you show up regulated, you offer something rare: predictability, groundedness, emotional safety, and people lean toward that without even knowing why. Here's the deeper realization. The world doesn't chase those who are loudest. It gravitates toward those who are centered. Centered people don't need to convince. They don't oversell. They don't overextend. They simply exist with quiet confidence. And confidence, at its core, is self-trust. Self-trust says, I will be okay no matter the outcome. And when that belief becomes embodied, your energy changes, your posture changes, your decisions change. You stop chasing people who don't reciprocate. You stop forcing opportunities that don't align. You stop performing for rooms that don't see you. And suddenly, your world simplifies. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer scattering yourself in every direction. This is the twist. You were never meant to exhaust yourself in pursuit. You were meant to become internally stable. Because once your stability is real, you don't need to chase, you don't need to convince, you don't need to grip. And when that shift happens quietly inside you, something remarkable unfolds. The energy you used to spend running becomes gravity, and gravity doesn't chase, it pulls.